And we're live. Hi, everyone. This is Pam from Town Book Center and Cafe. I'm so thrilled to have the Fierce Reads Tour author with us. Yay! Okay, now I'm going to get up, so you may lose me, but as long as you see them. How about that shot? Didn't I do that? Great. Yeah, okay. So, I'll be doing two things today. I'll be moderating the live blogging, and I'll be introducing the panel as well. So, briefly, if we could just go down the table, although I know you all know who these are, wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, just very briefly.
I'm Ann Aguirre. I'm Marie Rutkoski. And I'm Caragh O'Brien.
It's nice to have you here, everybody. Thank you all for coming out of your busy, busy day. So, how about very briefly, if you could each give us a summary of your book. I'm going to get out of the way. Ann, would you start, please?
Sure. The first thing that you need to know about my book are disclaimers. The book itself is probably possessed by demons. So if it bothers you to have a demonic object in your home, you may want to think twice. If you do happen to take home a copy of the book, if the book whispers to you in the night, under no circumstances should you heed its advice. Right? The demonic object will, under no circumstances, give you good or valid life advice. Okay? If it turns out to trouble you more than you expected to have it in your home, I'm going to need for you to burn it. If you do burn it, I need you to contact the media. And I want you to use this precise verbiage. I am burning this book because it is too evil to exist. Okay? If enough of you do that, I feel like we have a real grassroots opportunity because National Book Banning Week is coming up, and it's always been one of my goals to be banned. If you can get me banned, all the parents will tell their children that my book is too evil for them to read, and then all the children will want to read it even more. Because that worked out really well for J.K. Rowling. Yeah. I feel like we can do this if we work together.
I have an idea. See me after this.
Other disclaimers, if you have or night sweats, you should not read it because it'll make it worse. I'm just kidding. It's not actually possessed by demons, as far as you know.
I can attest to the night sweats.
Also, Macmillan is not responsible for any traumas or therapy that you require. After reading it, we will not pay for any of your mental health care. You guys look really worried. The book is actually pretty dark. It's pretty disturbing. It starts with a girl named Dee Dee who has been bullied to the point of being broken. She's on a bridge, ready to end it all, when a hot boy comes along and offers her a deal. 3 favors now in exchange for 3 favors later. She takes the deal because, you know, she was already going to kill herself. Well, why don't we see where this thing goes? As it turns out, it goes down the rabbit hole and her life becomes really weird and exponential. There's monster, there's kissing, there's blood spatter, there's violence. But not all at the same time. I would say that it's a fantasy horror mashup with a little bit of romance thrown in. It is a trilogy, and I hope you like it if you're brave enough to read it.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Marie, and my book is The Winner's Curse. The Winner's Curse began for me with the title. The winner's curse is a phrase from economic theory, and it describes what happens at an auction. When you win an auction, but the only reason that you've won is that you've paid more than everyone else has decided the item's worth. And I was really drawn to this concept and to the phrase because of its beauty, and to the concept because it felt to me that it got at something essential about our lives, where very often when we want something quite badly, we pay in order to get it. It's the notion of the Pyrrhic victory, where you win and you lose at the same time. Or what you have to want is more than you bargained for. So I tried to imagine a story that could go with the title The Winner's Curse, and a character to pay something steep emotions and not about the financial expenditure. And as I considered, well, cause this, it occurred to me, what if the thing were not a thing? What if it were a person, to buy a person? And so the idea for the story, who is the 17-year-old daughter of the highest-ranking general in the Imperial Army. Now, the Empire, very militaristic regime, and the Empire, much like the Roman Empire, is going out and conquering territories, and then after conquering, enslaves the population. As the Romans did in the ancient world, slavery was a matter of course consequence of war. And in this story, Kestrel is at an auction at the beginning of the book, and for reasons that I think are mostly sympathetic, she ends up purchasing a slave for auction, a young man. What she doesn't know, however, is that the auction was pitched to her. The hope was that she would buy this young man because he's a member of a rebellion seeking for the people, and he has now been planted as a spy in her household.
Interesting.
It gets very tricky. My name's Caragh O'Brien, and my new novel, The Vault of Dreamers, takes place at a boarding school, a school for the arts. And schools for the arts are a little bit unusual places anyway, in the first place, because they have all these artists there. But there are two reasons that make the Ford School especially unusual. And the first is that it doubles as a reality TV show. So there are cameras everywhere, and the students are always being filmed. If you ever saw the movie The Truman Show, it has the concept that, unlike Truman, the students on the show know that they're on a show. In fact, they're competing with each other. The most popular have higher blip ranks, and then they can earn more money on the back of their feeds. So it's also supposed to make them more creative. If you understand some principles from education in school, when people have an audience for a project, they're supposed to work harder on it. So just the cameras alone supposedly make the kids more creative. The other thing that's unusual about the Ford School of the Arts is that the students are required to sleep for 12 hours every night. And I don't know if you know too many teenagers, but they don't always get enough sleep. And the ones at the school are required to. One night, Rosie Sinclair, a first-year student, decides to stay awake and see what's going on at night. And she discovers that the school doctor is tending one of the sleeping students who is having a seizure. And she decides she really needs to investigate to see what's going on. And it turns out that some of the students are more obnoxious when they're asleep than when they're awake. So it gets a little creepy. It definitely gets creepy. It's a novel about dreams and art, and they need time writing it. And I just want to say thanks again, Pam, for having this.
Oh,
it's really good to hear.
My pleasure. If you don't mind, if I could just, I can't shut up about books. Anyway, the part about the sleeping really, it reminded me of Handmaid's Tale, where we're all kind of like doing the same thing at the same time, which is really, really creepy. And, well, I haven't quite figured out what your book was about. You just spoiled it for me. So I have to finish, because I didn't know that they'd set that up. I just got to the part where she bought the slave, so yeah, thanks. Yeah.
You don't know that it's true. It was a bit of a spoiler. You don't know at the beginning that it's set up.
But I don't think it'll ruin the whole book. But at least now I know why he's there. It won't?
No, there's a lot of other stuff that happens.
Oh, okay.
And I think once you get a passage from his perspective, you know that something's not quite what it seems.
All right, cool, thanks. And then I likened Mortal Danger to like making a pact with the devil. Is that kind of?
What
he's not actually the devil, but he certainly works for some very bad people.
Well, no, not the pretty boy, no,
Oh.
but that Mr. Westerman or whatever his name is.
Redford?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a horribly
Inaccurate description?
description, but he's not actually the devil.
But is that kind of like what you were thinking when you...
Yeah, it was definitely inspired by Faust. I saw the Strange Bargain and Dr. Faustus, whatever the official Marlowe title is.
Right.
I saw it produced when I was in college. I went to the Stratford Shakespeare Festival in Canada, and that was one of the things that was being performed. And I realized that Marlowe is not Shakespeare, despite countless scandals.
Despite what he thinks.
Yes. But I saw it performed, and I've been fascinated with it ever since then.
So maybe you saw the wrong Marlowe play. You see Edward the Second. You might like Marlowe a bit better.
I like Marlowe. I just think it's funny that people are constantly saying Shakespeare wasn't Shakespeare, that like his plays were written by all these different people.
Oh, it's not true.
I know.
I love how we're in a YA discussion and Shakespeare comes up. Am I the only one who sees the connection? So if I could ask a question that you probably get asked 4 million times a day, if you could each tell me what character you most relate to in the book. That's a tough one, I know.
Actually, we don't get asked that question quite that way all the time.
Awesome. For me.
Well, for me, it's Dee Dee. I was bullied as a teen. She was bullied as a teen. We were both weird and awkward. And I'm still weird and awkward. But I make it work now.
And you're smart. And it's...
I learned how to work it.
Yeah. I think that's what I liked about her, is that she's smart. She knows how... She has a brain. She knows how to use it. Which I don't know why more people don't use their brains.
I think we've ascertained on this tour that I'm bad at keeping secrets. And
Should I stop broadcasting right now?
And also perhaps that quality that I share with Erin is that sometimes I don't keep my mouth shut and I should.
It's adorable when you do it.
Just tell us.
Because you tell the whole group, I'm going to tell you a secret. But don't put it on the internet.
She's about to tell us the secret, y'all. All right.
I trust
No,
them.
totally.
I trust them.
No, it's not even on.
Oh. Lies. I see through your lies. But I think that probably I most relate to Kestrel. I think I do have a somewhat strategic mind. And she does, certainly. I'll leave it at that.
Oh.
I'll say that I relate most to Rosie. It was really interesting to me to write her novel. It's in first person, so I feel like I really sort of invaded her mind for a while we were working on the book, Rosie and I.
So you're talking as two people.
We're not talking as two people.
No, and her book is the one that's the problem on the nightstand. Now you're saying you're schizophrenic.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky. Yeah, so Rosie and I wrote the book together. We'll just go with that. Why not? And I guess I relate to her because I really had to become her for the book. But she's really creative and she's really smart and she's a bit of a loner. She has this unusual ability to be able to see the world as if through a moving camera lens because she's wanting to be a filmmaker and she really sees things that way. And she's not fully aware that having the camera actually keeps her at a distance from people because she thinks she's observing them all the time. But there's this wall that comes up when you have the camera where people can't see you so well from the other side. And I was really interested in what that distance would do for her friendships, and I was also really interested in how, for the readers might be able to discover things about the world that Rosie herself couldn't see. So it just was it was totally an interesting mind game to write the book, and I think Rosie is kind of interested in mind games too, so we have that in common.
I wonder if it's a commentary on the way social media works in our lives, right now, you all are a lot younger than we are, and you're used to being on social media all the time, and you're used to having the cameras in your faces. And I know for me, when I'm at events, I'm always taking the picture because I feel like it's bringing me into it. Like, oh, look, I'm here, cheese. And you're saying that there's some distance, and I just wonder if the young people who use more social media, if you had a comment on that, on whether you feel like it's bringing you into it or it's taking you out. Don't all speak at once.
As a teen, I did not have, it was when cell phones were just happening and there were not cameras. So as a teen, I don't really know, but now as someone who's really into the social media, I think there is an element of, oh, I gotta take a picture of this meal before I start to eat it, and it's gonna be cold.
Do you feel like you're part of the meal? Is that why you do it?
No. There's times where I feel like it's not a problem, and there's other times when I see everyone else at the table doing the same thing and nobody's talking. And that's when I realize
I
it's
read
an
a
issue.
really interesting article. This is a complete diversion, but I think you guys might find it fascinating too. There was a restaurant that was getting a lot more complaints about their service than they used to, and so like they did a comparison study, and it used to take like an hour for people to eat a meal, because the first thing they did was sit down, look at the menu, order, and then talk to their companions, eat the meal, talk to their companions, and then leave. But now, in 2014, the process is completely different. It's come in, sit down, check your phone, go to the bathroom, check your phone. So they sit at the table for like 20 minutes before anyone actually picks up a menu. And then once they'll take pictures of it, they post the pictures, they pass the phones around to take pictures of each other with the food, and by the time they actually eat the food, it's cold, and then they send it back because it's cold, and it's like, this food is cold, and it's like, and the waiter is like, yeah, I've been watching you let it sit on the table for 15 minutes before anyone touched it. And like now it takes like an hour and 47 minutes. And from what they compared to like 10 years ago, was it? It was like 10 years ago. The difference is cell phones and the way people use them over a meal.
And also, we're always on, and I wonder if, whereas, you know, I wasn't used to being always on, but you can't turn around and go like this anymore, because there's always somebody who might have a phone, right? Someone might be Vining you, or they might have a Snapchat. Like, my daughter's friend did it. I was eating in a restaurant, and then my daughter was like, oh, I know you were at so-and-so. How did you finish? She goes, oh, look. And her friend took a Snapchat of me at the restaurant with my girlfriend. And
It's a good thing you were with your girlfriend.
good thing I wasn't picking my nose, really. Yeah, what if I was with Ricky Martin? So, and I just wonder if this is the new norm. Like for Hunger Games, the whole idea of them being in front of everybody and getting sponsors was kind of a new thing. And now this is so the norm. I just wonder if you guys don't even think about it because you're always potentially on camera. That was a long
That's
question.
what I loved about the Golden Dream. So she didn't like that feeling of being on all the time.
She did.
Okay, I digressed. So,
No, that's
I'm sorry.
fascinating.
anybody else have any thoughts about that? I don't want to cut you off if you were forming a thought.
There's something about reading that also makes you feel as if you're surveying. And sometimes where you want or expect another character to be looking in on the same scene that you're watching, but you want him or her to know it's taking place.
Could you write that?
Did I write that?
Could you?
Well, I couldn't write a book like The Walter Dreamers.
But could you write a book where, like, they both know what's going on at the same time? Because I like that idea. Is that something that's doable, or is it totally just, it would be too hard?
One of the things that I really loved about this is not at all an answer to your question. One of the things
I appreciate that.
One of the things I really loved about Eleanor and Park is that even though it switches from alternating viewpoints, it's written in third person, right? You get Eleanor, you get Park. You get Eleanor, you get Park. But something really fascinating happens. Maybe about midway through, you're getting such brief glimpses into their heads. You're going back and forth so quickly that it almost feels as if you're inhabiting them both at the same time.
Right.
which I thought was an amazing thing to have pulled off.
That's close to answering.
I like books that have effects like that. I mean, you feel like the book itself is an artistic experience. It sort of changes you, or you feel like you've been sucked into something that you've never experienced before.
Because you almost want to say, hey, Eleanor, this is going on over here on this page, right? But she doesn't know because she's doing her own thing. Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's not what I'm saying,
No.
actually. What I'm saying is more that because you go back and forth so quickly, even though you're third person limited each time,
Mm-hmm.
you're only in Park's head, you're only in Eleanor's head, you're going back, but you're going back so quickly, and the emotions are so intense that the effect is that you almost forget whose head you're in. That you don't remember, am I in Park's head or am I in Eleanor's head, because you're able to, in fact, experience the sensations that they're having at the same time. It's as if you're inhabiting them both at the same time, that you've gone from third person limited to some other kind of point of view that has not yet been created. And I thought that was really quite astounding.
I see what you mean now. Thanks. So, describe your character in 5 words or less. Anyone?
I would choose 3.
Okay.
And my character, Kestrel, is manipulative, brave, and vulnerable.
Ooh. Those are good. Anybody else?
Yeah, Rosie is imaginative and brave and what's the word for woman? Wistful
Brave.
and resourceful. That's 4.
But you get 5, so.
I'll stick with 4.
I think she's also kind.
She is kind. Let's throw that in there too. She's kind too. Thank you. You're kind.
I would say Edie is weird, awkward, brilliant, stubborn, and
She's also kind.
I think she's brave. I think that's a common thread with all 3 of them, because
she's
they're
also
really.
brave / kind.
Yeah.
She's fierce even. These are all fierce.
So, what makes you fierce then, each one of you?
Me or my character?
Yes.
Do I have to pick one or do I answer both?
Yes. Whichever you'd like. I would prefer to hear about you, but if you want to talk about
Oh, me?
character.
I am fierce because I'm very protective of my children. And I will cut a bitch if she messes with my children.
Shanker, huh?
Whatever has to be done.
All right, well, then let's talk about our character in the book. What makes her fierce? I mean, I know, but.
Well, in the beginning, she's not particularly fierce. She's broken. She's very broken. But that's her arc to becoming fierce. The bullies have pushed her to the point where she thinks she's worthless and that her life is not worth anything. And she has to come to the realization that that is wrong and that she is indeed worth a great deal and that she's a valuable person and that the opinions of people that don't care about her really don't matter. What matters are the people who value her for who she is and her family. And she's not quite a warrior by the end of the book, but she is fighting, which is more than she's done at the beginning. And by book 2, she's pretty badass.
Interesting.
I don't think I'm fierce.
No?
No. We've talked a bit on this tour about being sorted into Hogwarts houses. And I don't think I could be in the Gryffindor house. I think I'm maybe not brave enough. It's been floated around that maybe I belong in Slytherin.
That was my first instinct.
Oh snap! She just said you belong in Slytherin.
That was my gut instinct. Yeah, I mean, I work in a bookstore. I sort everybody that comes in. Doesn't everybody?
Yeah, I think
I have been officially sorted. I'm curious what you think I am. I have been officially sorted by Power.
Officially. Let's say Gryffindor. No?
I am a Hufflepuff. We are loyal. And badgers will defend.
See, maybe you're sending off a different vibe in the book then, so it threw me off.
So, although I don't think that maybe I am fierce in my manner of expression, I guess I would say that if anything makes me fierce, it's that I'm quite determined. So if I set out to accomplish something, I usually do it. It's fierce.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes some time sometimes, but I'm in it for the long haul, and I usually get it done. As for what makes my main character Kestrel fierce, I would say that her mind makes her fierce. I think she has a very incredible mind. It's a rather sneaky one sometimes. But I also think she has a very good heart. And sometimes that may be what is the most important. So what makes Aaron fierce?
Oh, he's mad. He's angry.
He's angry. He's angry. And he's kind of a badass. But he's sexy. All those things make him very fierce.
Sexy works.
He's totally a Gryffindor.
I'm definitely fierce. I'm really like fierce.
That pattern
I'm
scarf,
usually
yeah, because you can choke somebody with it, right?
Yeah, I am. I'm dangerous too. Fierce and I'm dangerous.
Those quiet ones.
Well, that's the thing. I hide it, and I know that to really be fierce, you have to conceal that so that people don't know. And
Like a
then
ninja.
when you need your strength, and you pull it out and they're surprised. You have stealth ferocity.
Ooh, stealth for us.
Oh, try. That's the number one weapon.
I know, as she says on the internet.
I was Spanish.
No one will ever know.
What would be your weapon of choice?
We're going back to oil. Yeah, I don't know if
She's a
I'm supposed to.
cleanser, that's right. She's
Fencing. Yes, I came in second in the state of Minnesota for girls back in my decade. But there were only 3 girls competing. So I had to be one. But
That's still pretty great.
Yeah. I don't even have a foil anymore. But if you give me a knife or something, I can throw it. It's between your eyes.
So when the zombies come, I want you on my team. Zombie. Yeah. What's your weapon of choice?
Shotgun.
Oh.
You just gonna throw it out there?
I would say poison.
Poison.
Yeah, that's stealthy. Those are in color.
I actually was at a shooting range in Vegas, and I got to choose a whole bunch of different weapons. I've used an AR, I've used a pistol, I've used a shotgun, and I've used a rifle, and I'm most comfortable with the shotgun. I like the weight of it. It's got a barrel long enough to sight,
What's the
and
difference between a shotgun and a rifle?
the size. The size of the rounds, type of bullet it uses. Shotguns often are double-barreled. Rifles generally are not.
They use shotguns to kill ducks, right? With shot. Isn't that those little pellets or something?
I have never killed a duck with a shotgun. I think that would be overkill. I think you could probably kill a duck with a BB.
Yeah, if you have no good aim.
What
I
is
don't know. I thought if you shot so much of bullets, like with shotguns, because ducks are killed with those little
That's
things.
like that's a
scatter.
scatter shot. I did not use a scatter shot. I used ammo.
Anne seems to know her weapon.
Yeah.
I do know my weapons.
Yeah, and you know what?
How
Yeah.
to load and everything.
And guns
I'm
are
ready
better
for the zombie
than the zombie. Yeah, because you have to get too close, and all you can do is
Yeah.
throw your thing. But yeah, you could be like miles away. You could be the sniper, huh?
No, that would be the rifle, and I didn't really like the rifle, and I'm not particularly accurate, but I was really good with the double tap with the shotgun. I actually got a headshot
Oh, well, that's
with the
helpful.
shotgun, which the guy said, he was like, "Are you sure this is your first time?" And I was like, "Unless you count video games, yeah." And he was like, "Well, you're really good," because I actually did the double tap with the shotgun head and chest, and I had the target at home.
Wow.
Pretty sweet.
Don't crowd Ann Aguirre.
Yeah, really.
Got the prize for most years.
I think so.
Like,
Yeah.
I know how to use
And we all want to be on your team when the zombies come, apparently. So speaking of zombies,
And you do.
what are you reading right now?
Reading.
Mm-hmm.
I just finished The Menagerie by Tweety Sutherland, and I started on the train reading Secret by Lindsay Smith.
Okay.
And I'm in the middle of reading The Vault of Dreamers. And yeah, I love it.
I hear that author's really good.
She's great.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't say you like it, she'll throw a knife in your head.
Between your eyes.
In your sleep.
And then your mind will not be strategic at all. I just finished Blue by Lisa Glass. It was a surfer romance, and it was really good. And then right now I'm reading Jackie by William Ritter, and I am enjoying it for fun.
Hey, bless you, Mason.
So,
Thank you.
I'm curious, anybody in the audience want to share what you're reading right now? Are you all reading these? Or no one?
you should be. You should be saying.
I just finished Gold Dreamers last night.
Yeah. Anybody else? Tell me.
I finished The Winner's Curse yesterday.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Anybody else want to share what you're reading? Would love to know. Nobody wants to talk.
Oh, I'm reading Made for You by Melissa Moore.
Oh, okay. Quiet
What
group.
about you?
What am I reading? I am. Well, now I can put down The Winner's Curse now that I know. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. I am reading The Winner's Curse. I am almost this close to finishing The Vault of Dreamers, so thank you for not spoiling. I hate spoilers. And I am in the middle of Infinite Sea by Rick Yancey. And also Storm by DJ McCann. So I read a lot of young adult. Problem is, I'm reading 3 speculatives at one time, so kind of getting the stories confused.
Are there aliens in your head when you think Winner's Curse now?
Yeah, because I was like, wait, is he an alien? Wait, is this slave? Is this slave alien? And then I was like, oh no, wait, that's the other book. So yeah, and that may be why I'm like the way I am.
You're great. Never change.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So did you finish mine?
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah. And it was one of those things where, you know, you want to spend more time with them, but you're like, oh crap, time's running out. Let me hurry up and I wanted to stay with her for a while and talk to her and find out more deep information, but I couldn't. So I have to wait till book 2.
I did a really bad thing with this book. I think you know what I did.
Yeah, I was a little angry. And that's the great thing about working in the bookstore. You can come in and you can talk to your coworker and you can say, when I meet her, I'm going to tell her this.
Hold on.
Oh.
But it's good that you became emotionally invested.
Right, that's what you want. You want a visceral reaction. It is. I host a lot of book clubs, and I say, you know, even if you don't like the book, come, because it's that visceral reaction that somebody else might have to it, and who knows? It may give you a different perspective, and you may still hate it, but at least you might appreciate it. Like The Passage. Oh my God. By Justin Cronin. Anybody read that? It's like 800 pages. And then when I finished it, the book club was like, oh yeah, these were vampires. I was like, oh wait. Vampires in that book. And then the way they described it to me, I was like, oh, I see what you're talking about. I'm used to young adult vampires where they're like sexy and sparkly and, you know, they have like full teeth that come out. So, yeah, you should definitely talk to other people, especially if you don't like the book. So, enough about me. Let me ask you another question, if you don't mind. How about, you want a hard question or an easy one?
Like a doozy.
Oh, you want a doozy? Okay. What were your favorite books growing up?
That's not a hard question.
It would be for me, because I can't remember anything.
Okay. Did you do a lot of drugs?
Yes. Is it
Out
obvious?
really well.
Thanks.
Don't do drugs.
This is what it looks like.
Don't do drugs.
Yes.
Do you want to go then?
All right. For me, the most important book that I read as a child was Wrinkle of Time by Madeline L'Engle. And it was because Meg was weird and awkward and not particularly attractive. She was very smart. So I felt like she was a kindred spirit. And she also had kind of a messed up family, which I could relate to. And she was not at all concerned about what anyone thought about her. Like, she wasn't upset or humiliated or shamed when the kids mocked her. She was like, whatever, losers, I have important stuff to do. Like, I have to find my dad, and I have to look after my little brother, who everyone thinks he doesn't really talk, even though he's kind of a genius. And she still had all these awesome adventures, and she was strong, and she was confident, and she didn't let anyone give her any crap. And eventually she still met a dude who thought she was awesome exactly the way she was. She did not get a makeover. She did not get a new party dress. She did not have to change. So everything about that was absolutely revelational, and I adored it.
I agree.
So I think for me, probably books by Catherine Patterson, most especially Bridget Terabithia and Jacob Have I Love. I think because Patterson is just so good at writing relationships, in many different kinds of relationships, and not just the friendship between Jess and Leslie, but between Jess and his mother, Jess and his father, Jess and his sister. I would also probably say, I might say Romeo and Juliet, because it was the first Shakespeare play that I read, which was when I was in 5th grade, and my best friend at the time, she and I would act it out, and we would stab ourselves with black pens and drink the poison. The poison we would drink would be Kool-Aid. It was very fun. That was influential to me professionally, I suppose, because I teach Shakespeare, so I began my love for Shakespeare then.
Do you make your graduate students drink Kool-Aid and pretend to die for your entertainment?
No, but that's a good idea. I should do that.
I thought that was a requirement when you learn Shakespeare. You have to act out a scene. Yeah, totally. It's really, you have something, you have a monologue in your repertoire, you will always be able to use it, even at the most inopportune times. Like on the subway. But you get the seat all to yourself, so.
And I suppose maybe the last book that I would say would be Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, which I first read when I was about 12 years old. I mean, much like reading Romeo and Juliet, I didn't get all of it. It's not. I mean, these are very complex books, but they're books that I've read and reread over many years, and I always see something new each time. And I think that what I really love about Austen, and what influenced me when writing The Winter's Curse, was definitely influenced by Austen's books, by Pride and Prejudice and Emma as well, is that I love how Austen is able to pack so much symbolic, social, and emotional meaning into really little gestures. I think there's a reason why the most successful moments in film adaptations of the books are about little gestures, like in the Keira Knightley version. You know what I'm talking about. I see her doing the movement. The hand when Mr. Darcy, after helping Elizabeth get into the carriage, is walking away and he flexes his hand. You know his hand is just tingling from having touched hers. There's so much sexiness just packed into the flexing of his very large and rather muscular hand. And yes. And of course, there's Colin Firth in a wet shirt in the BBC adaptation.
And the pirate shirt.
Yeah, and you know, I think the reason why these moments are so exciting to viewers is because they're so small. Because it's just such a tiny, tiny moment, and you get to read so much into it. So it's really packed with a lot of unspoken tension.
I really loved Pride and Prejudice too. I ran into that in 10th grade, and I remember finishing it and thinking, I'll never read a book that's this good ever again. It just blew me away. But when I was younger, one of my favorite books was The Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And I think that's partly true because of the illustrations. The Tasha Tudor illustrations were just so magical. The story of this orphan who was sent to work up in the attic, and she's starving, and she's in her little black dress that's too small, and she's mourning her dad, and she's so pathetic, really, but she has this imagination that just won't stop. And I was really drawn to this girl who could create these stories and be whole, no matter how difficult things were around her. So I just thought that was really magical. And another book I really liked was The Princess and Curdie, or no, The Princess and the Goblin by George MacDonald. Did you ever read?
I think I read
Princess and the
that.
Goblin? It's about this girl who is living in a poor mining town, and one night she sees this globe shining in the sky, and it turns out to be this magical lamp by her great aunt Irene, and she climbs these stairs in the tower of this castle to get up, and this woman has this magical lamp and these magical pigeons, and she gives her this magical mission and this magical string, and it just was one of those stories that transports you completely to another world, and I just had to follow the string, and I had to go to the lamp, and I felt like I was completely immersed. I love that story.
I haven't heard of that one, but that sounds
It's
like
really old now. I mean, it was old when we were young, so that's good.
Anybody else want to share some of their favorite?
Little House on the Prairie.
We were talking about that earlier today.
Yeah.
And the Harry Potter books for some of you, I bet.
I liked Narnia when I was a kid, but then when I went back to read them as an adult, I found them rather pedantic,
Oh, yeah.
and it turned me off. But if I took that portion out of it, then I found it a lot like
I
the
think
Goblin
a lot
one.
of religious.
Yeah.
It kind of went over our heads when we were kids.
Right.
Yeah. When you reread it, though, you're like, oh, this is so heavy.
Yeah, yeah. And it kind of ruins it, so you have to kind of take that part out to really look at the whole story. Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
love the character of Edmund. He's an amazing
Oh, I love
character.
Edmund. You love to hate him.
I don't hate him though. I mean, he does go bad, but he redeems himself. And
Did you
he
say
always-
he was Breaking Bad?
No, I love Edmund.
He does experience the most growth in the book,
Because he's tempted.
and he's
And we all
just
know temptation.
he's just so petulant that you just want to slap him. Shut up, Edmund. Or is that just me?
It's because I'm Miss Slytherin that I like him. Edmund was probably.
Yeah. Maybe he could have blonde hair. Yeah. Draco. It's just that.
Oh, me? That's right.
Right, speaking of poison, let's talk about writing. Thank you.
I do think that writing is a little poisonous because it creeps into you and it
Yeah.
changes you.
Yeah.
That's what poison does.
I've talked to a lot of authors, and there seems to be two trains of thought when writing. You know what the ending is going to be when you begin, or the book just takes you someplace later. Like you start out with an idea, and then you just kind of see where the character goes. And I wonder if you all could speak to that and how that affects you.
Well, let me ask first, how many of you in the audience are writers? We've got a couple here. Okay.
I did.
I trust that the story is going to work itself out while I'm going. And I wish that I knew better where things were going. I think it would be really nice to have an outline. But when I try to come up with outlines, I just don't get any ideas. So when I start writing, as soon as I'm in a scene, I can see the things that are around me, and I can hear them and smell them. And that's just so pleasurable to me that I want to be there. So I just jump into the story, and then I see where it takes me. And then once I have a draft, then I can see where the holes are and what needs to be filled out. And so I sort of can pick up an outline from when I have a draft. And from that I can use the more analytical side of myself to sort of plot out what needs to happen too. But I'm definitely more of a seat of the pantser.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Great.
So I did not plan on this being a trilogy, as some people who came early know. It was not my intention to write more than one book. But as I was nearing the end of writing this book, I realized that I was having a hard time visualizing what the end would be, and usually I know from the beginning what my end game is. And when I was having trouble getting any forward motion, making any progress on the book, it occurred to me that I was perhaps working towards the wrong ending. That I was working towards an ending that wasn't really true to my characters or to the kind of story I was trying to tell. And when I thought, well, what ending would be true? I had the ending that eventually became the ending of The Winter's Curse. And I realized that while I might be perfectly comfortable leaving it there, because for me it told the story I wanted to tell, my readers might not be okay with that, and they might want more. So I thought, well, do I want to write more? Do I want to write another book, a sequel, maybe 2 sequels? And then I discovered that yes, and I could see how Kestrel and Aaron's story would unfold and would progress. And it's been really satisfying to keep working at it.
Ann, I think I know your answer, but I want to hear it.
I always know how things end. I can't begin if I don't know what I'm writing toward. I always know where a story begins and I know where it ends, but I figure out everything in the middle from point A to point B as I'm writing.
And did you envision this as more than one?
Yeah, it was always going to be a trilogy. I sold it as a trilogy, and I know, well, I've completed the second book, so I obviously know how that ends. And I've been writing the ending of book 3 in my head for like a year. So, I mean, I probably will just go ahead and write the scene before I even start the book. I often will write the ending scene before I have the rest of it down. And then it's, I actually have written the book backwards before. Like, I wrote the first chapter, I wrote the first chapter, and then I wrote the last chapter. And for a while, I was going back and forth. And then I started just only writing the scenes backward from the end. And so the very last thing I wrote was like a random scene right in the middle, and then I had a book.
There is another author that does it, but I can't remember who it is. It's a very interesting approach. Right. It's not the norm.
I generally am more chronological, but that particular book, it just, like, the scenes at the end kept crystallizing, and I was afraid I would lose them if I didn't just go ahead and write them. And if I'm adding to the word count at the end, I'm still adding to the book, so.
Interesting. I'd like to open it up to questions now, because I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing from me. I know I'm tired of talking. So, please.
Actually,
Yes.
so I'm 23 and pretty much exclusively reading adult novels. And I think that's because they have such a good ratio of romancy stuff to action stuff. So how do you find that perfect ratio?
Good question. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really depend on the characters to tell me what's going on between them, and I try to just make sure that the relationship between the people is progressing, and that also that they both have jobs to do in the story that are not just being in there for romance. So, for instance, the main romance in The Vault of Dreamers is between Rosie and Linus. And Rosie is a student at the school, but Linus works on the staff there. So there's already sort of a division between them, just in terms of their jobs. But she needs him. She needs him emotionally, and she also needs the information that he can give her. And he needs her also. He needs to be healed by somebody in a way. And he also needs the notoriety or the fame that can happen for him if he steps onto the stage, and then he's picked up by her cameras too. So I like it when there's this thing of not knowing how much you can trust somebody. You need them, but you're not sure how much you can trust them. And for me, that really helps me work out what's going on romantically and balance with the rest of the action, because they go together. If the plot is going to progress in terms of finding out what's going on at the school, it also needs more time between Linus and Rosie. So that's how I do it.
Well, I do love writing kissing scenes. They're really delicious to write. Everybody loves kissing. I think it's a universal fact. For the action scenes, A lot of it developed quite organically when writing The Winner's Curse. Early on, in one of the conversations between Kestrel and her best friend Jess, Jess happens just in the midst of gossiping. So this is kind of a gossipy world. I mean, at least for the privileged people, Kestrel and her father and other Valorians. The Valorians are the imperial force. And they're very wealthy. They have nothing to do really except for go to tea parties and gossip and balls. And Jess happens to mention to Kestrel that a duel has taken place. And for me, that was a choice that had to do with world building, because in addition to being very wealthy, but of course, as you got probably from your description earlier on, this is a very militaristic society. Everybody wears a weapon all the time, and you have to be able to fight. And by the time you're 20, if you do not, you have to either or join the military, because if you're not going to go out and conquer more territory for the empire, you better be making babies that will grow up and conquer territory for the empire. So it seemed as if a duel would be just a very natural thing that would be happening in a society like this. There would be fights over honor, questions of honor. But then once, it was just rather arbitrary, that, not arbitrary, but because it had to do with world building. But then once it happened, I didn't plan on it happening, that Jess would classify a duel to be played. I thought, I need to have a duel. I need to show a duel. That would be a wonderful scene to have. And so I set myself to the task of figuring out how one would happen. That was very fun scene to write.
Well, I really like to write kissing scenes also, but I think it would be a little creepy if all I did was write about teenagers kissing. So I always just write less kissing than I want to write. Unless it's a YA romance, which I do have one coming out in the spring. And then, even then, I still have to have her hang out with me, because, like, you know, chafing is an issue. All she did was kiss the whole book. Her lip balm in this girl, her lips would eventually, even lip balm. I mean, there's friction. Have you ever kissed anyone for like 6 hours? Weren't your lips sore at all?
No, it's dead quiet.
I think it happened.
I just don't think. I think there are like human limitations. You just can't kiss someone for 300 pages. I mean, would you go to the toilet with them? I don't think that you would. That would ruin the mood.
I think that, you know, David Levitan wrote a wonderful book called Two Boys Kissing, and it's about
Do they kiss all the time?
Yes.
Go to the toilet?
They did.
For a world record.
Yes, for
They
a world
did.
record. And how
It's
many
true.
hours?
It was like 22 hours or something crazy like that.
I suspect they were swollen.
I don't
They
think
weren't.
I don't think it was a fun experience. I mean,
No,
I
it
don't
wasn't.
think they necessarily enjoyed the kissing, but it was the point that, you know, to show two boys kissing. They are the ones who had the strongest commitment to this gesture of love.
Does that answer your question?
So sometimes you have to hold off.
I do hold off on some of the kissing scenes. I would like to write more kissing, but there's human limitations. You can only kiss so much.
Anyone else have any questions? I would like less kissing, but I want more violence and girls taking over the world. That's what I want.
I feel like you should be reading my book.
I am reading your books.
Excellent. Have you read the Razorland books?
No, not yet.
You should read them.
Is there less kissing and
There's a lot of acronyms.
any shotguns in them?
Rifles.
Oh. Interesting. I'm intrigued. Anyone else have? Yes, please.
So all three of you have either some intense or dark aspect that your character goes through. How do you come out of writing that? Like, how do you balance that? Does it ever just be too dark? You know, your Heath Ledger when he was put in.
I cry a lot and I eat my feelings. And I call my husband incoherently and I cry into the phone. He says, "You're okay."
You need to calm down and stop calling me. Who are you again? Actually, he does. He usually remembers me.
That's good.
Right there. Take a bubble bath, dance around to Taylor Swift. Get out of that intense.
Dancing with Taylor Swift sounds fun. Maybe I will try that.
There you go.
Is it necessary to get out of it? Can you just live in that?
I don't know.
It's not
I
without
need
wanting
pleasure.
to try.
Don't let it get to me too much. I mean, the second book, The Winter's Crime, is fairly dark. It is darker than The Winter's Curse. And there were some parts where it hurt my heart a little bit to write it, but it had to be done.
Only a little bit? You look so innocent and you're so cruel.
I'm a Slytherin, apparently.
You know, this might sound strange, but it's actually really satisfying to write the scenes that get really dark. And I start writing them, and I kind of can't believe that I'm going there. I can't believe that I'm doing it. And I think about Edgar Allan Poe and how he, married his 13-year-old cousin, and then he was into his opium and stuff. And
Maybe that's why he married his cousin. I mean,
You think?
he went to some pretty dark places, and I sort of feel like I don't want to go there. I don't want to personally make it who I am, but I think I'm recognizing there are these sides that really are very dark. And it's just interesting to explore that that's a side of me.
And isn't that why we're drawn to these dark books? Because they speak to that dark side of us. Like, we can't read Pollyanna all day because nobody is that freaking happy. But when you read, you go, yeah, what would I do if I was in that situation? Or this really speaks to the dark side, and you can kind of work through your dark issues through the books, right?
It's interesting. A couple years back, there was a debate online between Megan Cox-Gurdon, who wrote Is Darkness Too Visible in Teen Books, and Sherman Alexie, whose response to her article, in which she was called out by her, was the article, The Best Books Are Written in Blood. And he said that, for him, he writes books that are written in blood because he knows what it felt like to bleed, and that there need to be dark books,
right,
for some teen readers who are facing some difficult issues in their lives.
And they can't relate to someone who's happy all the time and everything works out great for them, right?
Or even if you are fairly happy, you vicariously want to see what it's like for other people. It's just interesting to get in other people's shoes and experience a range of emotions and what it's like to be human in a different form. It's a good question.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I was curious because I got to be on an interview with another author, Marie Lu, and I don't know if you guys have read her book, but her main character is kind of an anti-hero. She was talking a lot about the Heath Ledger experience of really getting into that character, and sometimes you go to these really dark places and it's hard to get out of. She was talking about what she had to do to kind of get out of it, like give her puppy lots of hugs. Stuff like that.
Any other questions? Anybody else? Itching? Jen, do you have a question? Sorry to call you out. Now here's a question that I have just recently come upon, and I find I like it, and I don't know whether you all like it or like to answer the question, but if they were filming the movie, who would you want to be in it? Now keep in mind, I don't know who any of the young actors are, so they'll probably understand it more than anybody.
I don't really know who the young actors are either, and I would rather have it be made into a television show. To me, that would make total sense for this book.
It's like Big Brother.
Yeah, that's where it should go.
I too would rather that the Winner's trilogy be a television series. It would be great to see 3 years, a book per season. And I don't. It's hard for me to imagine actors playing the roles of my characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have anyone in particular that I would choose for the part.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really don't like the dream casting question because I would need to see auditions. I mean, it's really hard to just look at someone's face on the internet and go, well, yeah, he kind of looks like how I imagine him. But can he actually act?
Well, that's a separate question. But do they at least look like how you envision them in your head?
I don't really have. I don't really do that unless I have no choice. Both my YA trilogies I would like to see as movies. With the Razorland trilogy, I've actually turned down 2 offers because fortunately I'm in a position that I don't really need the option money, and I would rather hold on to my intellectual property until the right offer comes along. There were problems with both teams. The first team wanted to do a feature, but the crew was more experienced in television. They worked on The West Wing, and I mean, they worked on a number of good TV shows, but he only had 1 film to his credit, and Sweet Oleander did not do well financially or critically. And he kind of wanted to use my IP as his proving ground, and I was not interested in being someone's test project. Yeah. So I passed on that, and then the next nibble that came along was from someone who wanted to do like Walking Dead for teens, which would have been really cool. I would have been fine with that. Unfortunately, he built his resume making Hallmark movies, like Family Channel Hallmark. That is so not Walking Dead. And again, he was wanting to use my intellectual property as his proving ground, and I was just not interested in pursuing either one of those opportunities. So I passed on both counts and said, no, we're not interested in this. Thank you, though. And
thank you for not selling out. That means a lot to me.
Where I am now, I still have a film agent who's working on it, but at this point, my daughter is 17, and she is pretty well locked into going to Vancouver Film School. And it's a 1-year program, 80% practical, hands-on, 20% theoretical. She will be certified and ready to make movies in a year. It's a full calendar year. And at that time, she will have all the contacts she needs between alumni and professors in order to start making movies. And she has expressed some interest in making the Razorland trilogy as her first project. I told her I'll greenlight it, and we'll see what we can do to make it happen when that time comes. And with my daughter at the helm, I will have more creative control than I could have had with any other possible team. And I am willing to let my daughter use it as her proving ground.
That could be fun.
So
I think that's so cool. I think so too. I will say that although I do that Kit Harington should play Aaron, nor do I see him as Aaron, or Aaron as him. Every time I watch Game of Thrones and Kit Harington's character, Jon Snow, has to say his name, I feel there's something about Aaron there, because G.R.R. Martin has created this world, and he's so smart in doing this, where if you're a bastard child, your name announces that. You are Jon Snow if you were born in the North, or you are somebody Flowers if you were born near King's Landing. I think you're something Sand if you're Dornish, right? And so every time somebody says, I'm so-and-so, and Jon Snow has to say...
It's like being called Steve Bastard.
Right, and Jon Snow has to say, I'm Jon Snow. You can really see the suffering in his eyes, and he hates to have to say his own name. And this idea of having to hate to say your own name and having to sort of suffer about it. There was something there that reminded me of Aaron and all the things that he can't say and all the things he needs to have to say.
So, any other questions? Yes.
What is one thing that you possess that you think would make you survive in the predicament or the world that you have put your characters in?
Well, we know what you was a gun, right?
I don't actually own a shotgun. I just don't have one.
I think I can be pretty sneaky. So I think I would try to outmaneuver people with my sneakiness.
I hope that it worked.
And I would use the tool that Rosie uses. She just needs to be able to film people. So if I had a good camera, I think that's what I would use to fight these horses. I know.
Ann?
I'm going to say common sense.
That's a good one. It is. A lot of people don't have that.
Right, let me close out the thing. If you all want to wave hi, and do you mind if I take a selfie with you all? If I can turn the thing around and get it right. Okay, everybody say hi, Pam. Thank you. You're wonderful. All right. So this is Pam at Town Book Center and Cafe. I'm here with Caragh, Marie. Look how I'm doing that. And Ann, and everybody here. Thank you all for coming, and check our Facebook page and our YouTube and our Twitter for more information. Bye.